X Factor Nation, what is up? We are back with another NBA weekly pod. I'm joined by the full gang this week. We got Troy, we got Caleb. I'm your boy Fred. Boys, how are we living today on a crispy evening?
Caleb?
Can't complain. Can't complain.
It's great. Great week. Lakers got a big win last night. The burden was lifted off of our shoulders. Now we're off till Friday. It's a feel-good week here in Lakerland. But as we look ahead just to the NBA as a whole, we have some nice topics to dive into today. With the first topic being, what teams do you believe it's time to panic? So I'm going to give Fred and Caleb a few teams here. We're going to dive into, is it time to panic, or should we maybe pump the brakes a little bit, give them a little bit more time? And of course, I will dive in when I see fit. Fred, you first. How about the Mavericks?
I love the Mavericks. I watched them play the other night, dude. Did you all see Spencer Dinwiddie just go stupid for like 4 straight possessions?
Mm-hmm.
Bro.
Yourself some Spencer Dinwiddie.
And I love Doe. I love Dorian Finney-Smith, bro. I'm obsessed with his game. Luka's playing at an elite MVP level. Get Christian Wood to keep going. Dude, I think the Mavs have a great shot at it. I love it. I think the combination of what they have with Luka and their depth pieces, beautiful. I am in on the Mavs.
When you say shot at it, what does it entail?
The title.
Caleb, what say you?
So we look kind of stupid because when we came up with this, the Mavs lost like 2 or 3 in a row, and it was like Luka's back-to-back really bad games. Now he just came off a 42-point triple-double, and Spencer Dinwiddie's been playing really well. So I wouldn't say it's time. I wouldn't panic, but I would have my eyes on the fact that like Luka had 2 really bad games, and you lost to 2 teams you could have beat. And maybe you should consider trying to bring in another piece that can help out. Reggie Bullock's not been a guy at all this year. Tim Hardaway Jr. at times looks good. Maxi Kleber, it's Josh Green. I think has played really well for them off the bench.
Yeah.
I don't think it's time to panic, but I think they need to take a look at themselves and be like, if we really want to get a shot at winning the title, we need to bring another guy in here we can rely on.
So I have really quick thoughts on the Mavericks. They're 1.5 games out of first place.
Mm-hmm.
They're a top 10 team in defensive rating. And they have Luka Doncic. They're going to be just
I've been
fine.
saying that.
They're 6-1 at home. So their struggles have come on the road, which for a younger-ish team, you can expect that, especially a team that has struggled with some injuries in last year with Tim Hardaway Jr. trying to get his footing. Christian Wood trying to reinvigorate himself into this team, his new role, and JaVale McGee. Like, there's a lot of moving parts to this team. So struggling on the road isn't too much of a concern yet. Now, if we're 3, 4, 5 weeks down the road and they're still, at this winning percentage on the road, that's when it's going to become a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, it's fixable. What I see wrong with them, they should be fine.
Should be. Yeah.
Caleb, moving to you with the Miami Heat. What do you see there?
Another team where it's like when we came up with this, they were looking pretty bad. But their last couple of games, Max Strus has stepped up big. Jimmy Butler just had a really big game a couple nights ago. So I do oddly though think maybe not panic's the right word, but I would be a little worried just because we've all hit on it. It's the same thing year after year now, and it's it's inconsistent. What's their record off the top of my head? I can't remember.
6 and 7.
Yeah. So it's like, they're okay. It's just, I don't know. You're relying on Kyle Lowry, who's old and, inconsistent. Jimmy Butler, who all this reliability on him's adding up on him. I think, we're going to see him start to rest throughout the season and everything. Bam has been hit or miss. Max Strus is starting to play well. Like I said, Tyler Hero, when he's there, I would just kind of figure out a way to switch things up a little bit to where I would feel more confident if I was Miami, just because it's the same team from last year.
So you said the last couple of games they're starting to figure out. I want to provide a little bit of pushback. Their last 2 games were against the same team, the Charlotte Hornets, and we're pretty nice to most teams, but when it comes to the Hornets, my man Fred has been really, really low on them. we all kind of have our issues with the Charlotte Hornets. Not a very good ball club.
Right.
So maybe that is where they might be getting their footing, but it could also be the Charlotte Hornets are that bad. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's just a good takeaway. If anything, you're starting to get Max Strus
a
in
little
Baltimore.
Confidence, a little pep in your step. You get a couple W's. What do you think, Fred?
I'm in the same boat as Caleb. It's just I'm all out on the Heat. I just don't really see where they go from here. I mean, I feel like they're just going to be a middle of the pack team, make the playoffs, but really not make a lot of noise. They just didn't do anything from last year's roster. And yeah, they were the 1 seed, but a lot of teams passed them up in talent. And I think they just stayed where they were at. And I thought that was a mistake by the organization. And yeah, they have some cool pieces. Bam's great. Tyler's great. Jimmy's great, but Max Strus has played well. Aging point guard. Bench has been disappointing. Not a lot going on in Miami.
I think the good news for them is that there are a few teams above them that aren't going to be the end of the year. I mean, unless something catastrophic happens, like the Indiana Pacers are still above them. Even the Washington Wizards. Now we have maybe they're good, maybe they're bad. We don't really know with the Wizards. They're a question mark, and even the New York Knicks are above them. So that's 3 teams that's like, okay, but there's teams below them in the Bulls and the Nets that you could easily see be above them. So they're in a weird spot. They need to start picking up wins consistently to try to, I don't even know, like move up into the standings, but I'm all out on the Heat. I have been all year long. I had been coming into the year. I thought they were going to barely scrape into the playoffs. The roster's bad. They paid a lot of money for Duncan Robinson, who's looked terrible. I don't know what it is with Duncan. I thought he was going to be really, really special for this team just as a floor spacer, but he just looks bad.
He can't guard. He cannot guard.
Yeah, it's really bad. I don't like their roster. They're beating up on some so-so teams. Yeah. So maybe that is a cause for concern. So moving on, how about the Cleveland Cavaliers? Caleb, I'll give this to you.
I'm not worried. They've lost 4 in a row as of right now. We've seen some guys in and out of the rotation, in and out of the lineup up to this point. You know, Donovan Mitchell is playing really great, and as of recording, Darius Garland just put up 51 last night. I don't like the fact they've lost 4 in a row, but I do think they have the capability to keep going. You know, their next game's against the Bucks, so it's a potential to lose 5 in a row. It doesn't really look really good or feel really well. But after that, I think majority of their games they definitely can win. I still think they're a top 5 team in the league, easy. I really like what I've seen out of them. I think Evan Mobley's kind of had a quiet year up to this point too. From the jump from how good he was last year, the jump you would expect him to make, it hasn't really been there. It's not disappointing by any means. When you have your Donovan Mitchell going crazy and Darius Garland trying to come back to the lineup, I guess you would expect it. So they haven't even really got him going like I was thinking they would. But I think things are just fine in Cleveland right now. I think they'll be good to go.
What do you think, Fred?
Yeah, I love the Cavs. I think they are disgusting. But yeah, I'd like to see more from Evan Mobley. And I think another X factor for their team is Caris LeVert. I think he's given them good minutes and good lift, scoring wise, but I think he could get even more. And of course, you've had an MVP like level play from Donovan Mitchell, which is, I thought he would be good. I did not expect 32 a game from him. And if he can keep that up, that's tough. And you still even have Kevin Love hooping. So good for the Cavs. I'm not worried about them at all.
The Cavs remind me a lot of the Dallas Mavericks. They have some really dynamic players on the ball. They're dominant at home right now, 4-1, and on the road they have their struggles. They're a 500 team. They're a younger bunch that's still trying to figure it out. I have something before. Obviously, they're 8-5. I put no time to worry. They're a top shooting team in the league, top defensive rating. They're going to be just fine. It's all about health. But a question I have for you guys. If you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, and let's say the Los Angeles Lakers want to blow this thing up, and they present you an offer sheet that has something to do with like an Evan Mobley, Caris LeVert, maybe another contract filler for Anthony Davis. Where for Anthony Davis,
I value Evan Mobley more than Anthony Davis. Oh my god.
Okay. All right. I was just curious.
Absolutely not. If I were the Cavaliers, I would be hurt. I would
I'd
feel
hang
so
up.
disrespect. Oh yeah, I'd
Really?
delete their number. I'd block them.
Really? Okay. I didn't realize Evan Mobley, 14, 2, and 7 was
Age, injuries.
He's a guy that can fit in well with with how well these guards are playing right now. Anthony Davis is going to need the ball, and he's going to take away from their guards. And Anthony Davis is going to get hurt, and Anthony Davis is going to be inconsistent.
okay.
That's just my opinion.
Okay. It was just an idea. I don't think if I was a Laker fan, I would say no because I think Anthony Davis is too valuable compared to what you'd be receiving in a trade. But okay, well, difference of opinions there. That's what makes these kind of interesting and
block
fun.
them. I would literally block them.
That is why I didn't want to
"You're an
say
idiot."
anything coming into it. I kind of want to just catch you guys off guard, get you guys this raw reaction to that. Not what I expected, to say the
Yeah.
least. But hey, I appreciate it. So now moving on to probably the team that I really want to dive into, and I want to present you guys with some numbers. It's the Golden State Warriors. Before we dive too deep, I want to give my opinion on the Warriors. They rely an unbelievable amount on Stephen Curry.
Yep.
And I
No.
understand that Stephen Curry, in my opinion, is the greatest point guard I've ever seen. When it comes to the offense, the way he affects the game, his just sheer presence on the floor. But something about this team is off. The vibes and the energy. There was a video that surfaced that after a win, they had a video of the bench and there was like no reaction whatsoever. Like the young guys just weren't really excited. The guys on the bench weren't really like, oh, yeah, we got a big win. It was kind of just a weird vibe that set around this team. And I also wanted to dive into, I've been big on defensive ratings. And if you don't know what a defensive rating is, it is essentially an estimate of points allowed per 100 possessions. Okay. And the defensive rating for the Warriors this year is 115.3. It would be the worst defensive rating in franchise history if it holds. And I wanted to kind of dive into how bad that defensive rating is when it comes to the Warriors. So whenever you look at their team in 2019-2020 that finished 15-50, right? The worst team, one of the worst teams in the league, ended up with James Wiseman. Their defensive rating, let me see if I can find it. They were 26th. I don't have the number of defensive rating. But when it comes down to them as a whole, their current defensive rating would be the worst rating all time. Only 15 times in Warriors history had they have an above 110 defensive rating. Right? So that's giving them 5 extra points. Only 15 times that the Warriors had that. Only 3 of those teams have finished above 500. And that's above an 110 defensive rating. Only 3 have had a 500 record on the season. And that's 110. That would be like to change it that much over the course of what we have looking forward, to change it to get below that, to fight those odds, to try to scrape, to try to claw with all the drama surrounding this team. Is it time to panic when it comes to the worst defensive team in Golden State Warriors history? And you look at the roster, it's like, how? Fred, let's go to you. What do you think?
I'm very worried about that. That is some alarming stuff if you're a Golden State fan. And I mean, it feels like Steph's going up and everybody else is just regressing at an alarming rate. We've touched on Jordan Poole. Haven't seen $140 million worth of basketball. Is that Draymond situation did that really shake the team that bad? Maybe. Does Steve Kerr still have the reins? I don't know. I don't know what it looks like in that locker room. If maybe get rid of Draymond. That would be if I'm picking between Poole and Draymond, I'm saying Draymond, good luck to you.
He's an expiring deal.
Yes, and he gives you a lot. I don't want to disrespect Draymond's game. I think he does decent enough. He's done good these last few years and his whole career. This year, not so much. It's just a weird situation. I feel like the young guys are disappointing. Like Jonathan Kuminga could be an elite level defender. He's an absolute athletic phenom. Haven't seen it. James Wiseman can't stay healthy. He should be an elite rim protector. Moses Moody, another lengthy guard, has not defended well. Klay Thompson looks as slow as ever. So declining. That's what I have to say. Very worried. Caleb, what about you, man? What do you think about Golden State?
Yeah, I'm worried. It seems like they're more worried about trying to get Klay back to Klay that we know than trying to work with what they have now. Like Moses Moody, last couple games I've seen, they've gone away from him. They've gone away from Wiseman. They're just now really starting to give Kuminga some run. Relying on Steph just way too much. Andrew Wiggins has been a solid number 2 for them. But I just think like they're so worried about trying to get Klay back. They're so worried about letting Draymond facilitate. They're so worried like about all these things that I just don't think really matter right now, because it's like in the long run, okay, cool. You're trying to get Klay involved. You're trying to get Draymond involved. Well, you're wasting guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody.
Wiggins is still young.
Wiggins is solid. I don't know about Wiseman. I just haven't really seen enough from him to really think that they need to try to get him going as far as like make it a point. But yeah, the vibes are just really bad in Golden State right now, and they haven't won a game on the road yet. Like
That's weird.
Yeah, it's I just don't think it's a good team right now, and I don't know what is going to happen with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, so so the defensive rating for the team, I wanted to look this up just because I was mad I didn't have it written down. When they were 15 and 50 was 113.8. So it's 2 points higher than that. And it's just mind-blowing, and especially whenever you dive a little bit deeper. Their offensive rating last year was 112.5, and this year it's 112.4. They won the championship last year. Guess their defensive rating last year.
Middle of the pack.
Yeah, I was going to say like
first. They had the best defensive rating in the NBA last season. They were first.
They've fallen off of that.
I would have thought the Celtics had number 1. That's
they were the number 1. I think the Bucks were second, and I think the Celtics were third. They were that elite on the defensive side of the ball.
They missed Gary Payton that much.
They brought in Dante.
Seriously.
They brought in Dante DiVincenzo, who, by all of our thinkings, was like, oh, that's a good defensive signing. He's a pesky on-ball defender. Maybe can bring in. What did I say before the year? Gary Payton could be an Alex Caruso-like loss for the Golden State Warriors. There's some sort of edge that those dudes provide that isn't a stat. It's just that grit. It's that presence every day.
It's the willingness.
The willingness to do the dirty work. Nobody on that team, Klay Thompson ain't diving on loose floor. He's very, very adamant that he's still trying to find his way. He's still probably hurting from all those surgeries, all those injuries. Steph's not getting on the floor. He's way too valuable. He's the franchise. Draymond's so mad at everybody. Yeah, he'll get on the floor, but how willing is he to go to war for these guys anymore? It's just, 2 years ago, they were 5th in defensive rating. Last year, they were 1st. And now this year, to have the worst defensive rating in their franchise history. Granted, a lot of time, a lot of ball games left to be played. They could flip it on its head, and they could prove
And plus, we're seeing a weird, guys are putting up crazy numbers night after night. The skill is insane. So it's you try to give them some slack there, I guess. But even still, you would expect them to not be dead last either way.
Yeah. It's mind blowing. What the just how much they've fallen off on that side of the floor. And I wanted to dive into that. Sorry, I was a little scatterbrained. I was really excited to dive into those numbers. Just to show you how bad that defensive side of the floor is for the Warriors. So we're all out on the Warriors. How crazy is that, considering you look at our rankings? Caleb had them the lowest at 4. But me and Fred had him the number 1 seed. I had him the 2nd seed. This was not expected, to say the least. Do you guys have?
I do think
thoughts?
They have the potential to turn it around in a matter of a week and a half, 2 weeks. So it's I'm panicking right now, but in a week, if we sit down to do this daily pod or weekly pod again, and they've won the last 3 or 4 games by a good margin, it's yeah, I guess we could have
5-1 at home. So they're playing good ball at home.
Yeah.
Golly, but that defense, man, I just, whenever I was diving into that, I'm like, holy cow, like it's the worst in their franchise history and not close by 2 points. Like that's a lot of points when you get into these ratings. Okay. Sorry. That just blew my mind ski. But there we go. Diving into the next topic here, a little bit of a fun topic, a little bit of a prediction I want to hear out of Caleb. Who is your next coach that's going to be fired? The first. I don't think any coach has been fired yet. Who's
Steve
the
Nash.
first coach? Oh, yeah. Well, the next coach. There it is.
Great call, Caleb. That's excellent analysis.
Mine is Tom Thibodeau.
Ooh.
Now, oddly enough, the Knicks are 6-7, so it's not, crazy. This is like his fourth year in New York.
Mhm.
And the thing with Tibbs that's always stood out to me is he's always played his guys. He doesn't care about the rookies. He doesn't care about young guys trying to get them run. He's always stuck to his guys and his guys only. We're starting to see him move away from guys like Evan Fournier, and guys like that on that roster. He started Cam Reddish. He's given all these younger guys in New York more run. I think that's a sign of like he's trying to figure something out to get this team going. We've seen it's just they're inconsistent. Their defense is horrible, as we saw this weekend at giving up 145 points to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I just don't like it. I don't like his fit there. I don't know if I like his fit in the NBA today at all, honestly. Like the Timberwolves didn't really work out. I just think it's like he's so hard-headed on like his way or the highway that I just think it's going to bite him in the long run. And I think the fans in New York, they wanted a superstar so bad they didn't get one. They're just desperate at this point, and I don't see him, being successful in New York.
Brett?
I'm gonna go Chris Finch for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Mm.
I think they're gonna get impatient, especially with
Can I say that?
it does.
His look
It
just
does.
takes me off. Like the way his presence.
I'm not a fan.
All right.
I think they need some young, just coach to come in there, mix it up, get weird with that lineup. Because like right now it's just not working, and I think Minnesota's going to get real impatient, especially with the move they just made, and they sold everything, and they have these 3-4 arguably young stars. Like they got to go now, and I think he can be a guy that's going to go out, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later.
I'm going to go with Dwayne Casey from the.
I was just about to say something about
That's Kentucky great, Dwayne Casey.
I love Dwayne Casey. I think I don't know if fired would be the right term. I don't think they would do that to Casey. I think it would be one of those things where it's like agreed to part ways. Like one of those like where they're both just like Dwayne's like, all right, let me walk away, maybe become an assistant somewhere. I think a guy like Quinn Snyder going in there, he had to infuse a young Utah Jazz team and turn them into a playoff contender. Maybe the same thing in Detroit. You bring in a bigger coach, big name, carry some name value, can maybe bring in some solid assistants and just kind of spruce up the offense a bit. He had success with Donovan Mitchell, his development. I could see that sort of hire. Or like you said, maybe even a young guy. Get in there, mix it up. I don't know who's out there in terms of a name.
You have to go to the college ranks and look.
Chris,
I just hate the fact I don't want to see bad teams like that are young and that like they have the potential to be better. And it's like you don't sure you would like them to be better than 3-11, but it's like you got to cut him some slack. I just hate the fact that like a guy like him, Jamal Mosley in Orlando. I hope Jamal Mosley keeps his job. Steven Silas in Houston, like all these teams that are bad but young. It's like I hope you just give your coach some slack. But at the same time, Troy, I can agree with what you're saying.
Casey's been there for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, last time he got fired, Nick Nurse came in and won a championship. So.
One guy I will throw out there that I do think is very probable is Steve Clifford in Charlotte.
That hire was stupid.
I can't believe he's still there.
It's his second.
Orlando, right?
It's his second time there. They're 3-11. They're not very good. I expect him to be gone.
Yeah, that roster's in shambles, bro.
Such a stupid hire. I didn't understand it when it first happened. It was stupid.
Yeah,
very dumb.
But moving on to another pretty fun topic, a contender down the road. So maybe not this year, maybe next year. Give me a contender down. Maybe even you want to get hot takey and give me a contender for this year. That's just waiting in the wing. Caleb, let's go to you.
Go Fred first. I want to hear Fred.
Fred, go to you.
I'm gonna give you a team from the nation's capital. Give me the Washington Wizards, baby. I'm talking championship contender next year, son. That team, if Staffs is playing, if Beal's playing, they go get KD. He's playing. Listen, even without him, go get some other guys. Why not? Why can't this team go compete for a championship? Kyle Kuzma, they have the role players. They just need one more superstar, and it's a wrap, son. I'm all in on the Wizards. They defend. They move the ball. Their space is incredible. God bless it. They're well coached. I love the Wizards. Give me all of Washington. Bradley Beal, get healthy. Get back to your 30 points a game, and let's go win a championship for the people out in Washington.
Caleb.
I've got one team from each conference. Western Conference, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. The defensive versatility they have, along with a guy like CJ McCollum, I do think this year, next year is probably their best chance with a guy like him. But I think he's a guy that you could easily, maybe not necessarily replace, but when he gets older, have him come off the bench. Like, I really like that a whole lot. I like that idea, along with Brandon Ingram offensively, with Zion leading the way there, and Jonas Valanciunas just being a force down low. For my Eastern Conference team, obvious choice if you've listened to me for more than 2 minutes, is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, young team, guard play is phenomenal. Big men play is solid. They've got depth. They've got room to make some changes and bring in some guys to help them along the way. I like that Cavs team a whole lot, and I just think that it's just a matter of time before everything clicks for them.
I mean, I'm surprised this team hasn't been mentioned. I thought this was going to be a hot team, and I'm going with the Thunder. I mean, with Shea at the helm, their continuous development of talent, of two-way guys. It doesn't matter who they pick or who they pick up. Like, they pick up Isaiah Joe. He looks like a legit NBA player right now. Like, they just develop such weirdos all across the board. I'm trying to remember one. I was watching one of their games the other night, and this weirdo pops off the bench and just
Omer Yuri or something weird.
Yeah, like
Eugene Omer Yuri or something. He was a two-way player. Got picked up and put up 22 against the Raptors.
Literally, Eugene Omer. Yeah,
he's to Oregon, right?
Out of the blue. Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They still have Darius Baisley. They still have Jalen Williams. They're developing. Chet Holmgren comes back next year. Who knows what type of pick they'll have next year, even if it's a later lottery. Ousmane Dieng, who hasn't been really, I don't think he's played at all. Like, if he just can develop, this team's long. They're athletic. They've done a good job. I love Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Lou Dort, Poku.
The one thing that concerns me, and it's hard to even say anything that's a concern because they have so many draft picks that they could just trade and fix any problem they have.
Yes.
But like, they have all these guys that are like non-positional, like Poku, Chet, Darius Baisley. It's like they don't have a true big man, and I think that's going to hurt them in the long run. And I think they need to address it. But that's like, I feel like they could easily do it, but it's just a matter of.
And you have to think too, like, there's guys that come available on the market, like a Steven Adams or a Jonas Valanciunas, that you can literally get for 1 to 2 first. And if you wanted to dive a little deeper and maybe get a Jakob Poeltl or a Visa Subac, like, if you want to pay the price for some of those teams, especially Jakob Poeltl, I think they could offer a bag of chips and 2 first-round picks, and they would be like, yes, deal.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Jakob Poeltl would take 2 firsts.
That's what I'm saying. They have the capital where it doesn't really matter if it takes it or not.
Like, first and a Mike Muscala.
Exactly. Like, hey, here, take said person. They have the cap space to absorb it.
So much
they
cap.
Could pay exactly, and then you pair him. Chet can play with him. Poku can play with him. Baisley can play with him. Like, you pair a true 5 with all of those guys. People need to start respecting the Thunder in terms of, like, next year being like a top 5 seed. Like, if Shea can stay healthy, Chet can play well and stay healthy, I don't see why not. And Giddey, like, I don't see why not. Shea's ready to take a team to the playoffs. They could be like how I feel about the Kings this year. That could be the Thunder next year, like the Hawks type run where they just click all at once, and next thing you know, they're shocking the world and they're in the Eastern or Western Conference Finals. It can happen. It can happen.
It's so insane to me that we're all so high on the Thunder when it's. I think last year they started like 6-5 or 5-6, and like they're 6-7 right now. And it's like just in a matter of a week, Shea could get hurt or they can come up with some injury, and then they can be back to just terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think that's them this year though.
I hope not. That's what I'm saying. I really like their coach. I like their system. I like everything about the Thunder. Yeah.
Like their coach, their sideline out of bounds, and they're like timeout out of bounds. Like the things that he draws up, absolutely incredible. Like I didn't know
their backcourt set. I think Giddey and Shea are just match made in heaven.
Trey Mann is like the perfect backup for them too, because he plays similarly to Shea. Obviously not Shea's caliber, but he plays similarly. However you say that, Jesus, me and Fred.
Dude, I couldn't talk.
Even a guy like Aaron Wiggins has played well.
Yes,
like all these guys you haven't heard of. It's just like
develop.
wow.
Well, hold on, Maryland. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just the guys that they develop and they groom, and next thing you know, they have 8, 9, 10, 11 deep that they can throw at you, hit you in many ways. Strength in numbers, kind of give you flashbacks to some Warrior days where they're the looming of a dynasty. I don't know. Just kind of sit tight on that one, munch on it.
I'm going to mention one team because I'm going to segue it from this question to next, and it's the Raptors, and I'll explain why after this question.
So let's segue straight into this one, and I'll give it right to Caleb. The first team to blow it up. Caleb?
What if the Raptors blow it up? I don't think this will be, but what if? There's been rumblings on Twitter, and granted, that means nothing, but they have their eyes on Shea. What if Shea's unhappy in Oklahoma City? What if they continue? Like, what if they go back to losing? And would Shea want out? Would Shea want to go back to his home state or home country in Canada?
But if they're blowing it up, why would he want to go to another project?
I don't think it would be as big of a project as like Oklahoma City, as Oklahoma City. Like him and Scotty Barnes and like OG Anunoby and Precious. Like I think, and then you could have the room to bring in another guy. I think that's something.
Bro, him and Scotty. Oh,
that'd be really fun. But my real answer, legitimately for this year, is the Brooklyn Nets. I think they're gonna blow it up. Jacques Vaughn's the head guy now. They like the vibes there. They're sitting at 6-8. I just don't think they have the group to really get anywhere. I think KD's going to end up unhappy. I think he'll either end up with an injury or rest the rest of the season at some point. They have guys that I think contenders potentially could want. Guys like Marcus Morris, TJ Warren when he comes back. All these guys that are okay, but I think on another team they could fit well. Like Seth Curry, I would love to see Seth Curry on a winning team. There's already talk that they want Joe Harris, like they're trying to shop Joe Harris, Patty Mills, Royce O'Neal. Like they have a bunch of plug-in guys that you can put on another team that's really trying to compete that the market is there for. I think that's very likely, and I would do it if I was the Brooklyn Nets. It just seems like there's no direction with this organization right now.
Fred?
I 100% agree. My team was also Brooklyn. I think they are just at a spot where they have to look themselves in the mirror and say, where are we going? Are we going there fast? And it looks like we're the bottom half of the Eastern Conference. Let's blow this thing up. Let's start anew. And that's it. I don't think anybody's happy there. Go ship some of these guys off. Go give some draft picks away and have some fun. Sorry, Brooklyn, you're back to where you started.
So my team is the Miami Heat, and I've said before, I was actually just talking about it, how much cap space a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder have. What happens if they in the offseason approach the Miami Heat and want Jimmy Butler just for a few seasons?
He's hard to play with.
While these young guys, but again, he's worked well with the Miami culture. I get that, him bringing into Oklahoma City, maybe butting heads, but he's still a good player. And he would provide something that no other person on that roster could: physicality, defense at the wing position. Maybe him and Lou Dort Could you imagine those two on the floor flying around? They wouldn't be able to shoot. That could probably be an issue.
No, they could not.
But just an idea of a guy like Jimmy Butler being moved to a team with some cap space, maybe some pick capital, and they get 2 first and maybe a developmental guy like a Darius Baisley or something like that. Ousmane Dieng. Like,
Let me ask you a question since you mentioned the Heat. Is Bam untouchable?
No,
I would not.
See, before the beginning of the season, I would have said yes. Now I'm like, no, right deal comes along. Why not?
I would if honestly I think they're kind of stuck where they have to play out the year. I don't think there's a lot of movable pieces in terms of like what type of restrictions go into contract extensions that they've signed. I don't know if Tyler can be dealt. I don't know how like what it works if Bam. I think Bam can be traded, no problems. But I think Jimmy just signed an extension too. But you gotta find suitors for Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy.
His contract's so
exactly
big.
like they're just loaded with terrible contracts. They don't have a future to look forward to. Like, yeah, Tyler Hero's fun, but can he lead a basketball team? No. Bam's great. Can he lead a basketball team? Probably
I mean,
not.
Tyler's going to be a really good option number 3.
Exactly.
I
They
just-
have
I
a
don't
great
know.
number 2 option in Bam, a good number 3 option in Tyler, and then they're like,
Who?
This is such a hard question because I feel like there's always several teams that are obvious choices every year. But it's like even this year, I feel like the Nets are maybe not even an obvious choice, but the Nets you could see, the Heat you could see. I think the Hornets are probably, I wouldn't say very obvious.
The Pacers.
What about the Spurs loading or unloading some of that young talent?
Yeah,
Keldon,
so like the
Jakob
Spurs. So as far as a young team basis, the Spurs, yes. The Pacers more than likely, but it's like other than that, like you look at like the Rockets. The Rockets have those 2 guards and Alperen Şengün. They have an idea of what they want to do. They're going to try to keep going. The Pistons, they have their guards. They have their big man. Like they know what they want to do. They're just going to try to keep going. The Magic, they're versatile. They've got everything they want right now. They're going to keep going. It's like you have all these teams that like ideally a couple years ago would have been very obvious, and now it's like, really? I don't know. Like the Timberwolves can't. You can't do it if you're the Timberwolves. You traded all that. The Timberwolves should be an obvious choice. The Thunder can't. The Thunder have all like the talent right now that they're, surprising some people, but they have all these picks as well. So it's like all these teams, it's like there's only a handful, if that are like even realistic options for an answer like this.
Clippers are interesting.
I thought about saying the Clippers.
Very interesting.
I think this year is the last year they give it a go. I think this off season's
everybody talks trash about Anthony Davis availability.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard and those boys, they struggle to stay on the floor as well.
I think they keep Paul George over Kawhi though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no doubt.
Kawhi doesn't play basketball. I don't even know if he wants to play at this
I was
point.
gonna say.
He might be too
Jazz are
comfortable.
another team that probably blows it up.
I don't know. I don't know.
10-5, man, with Laurie Bird at the helm.
I'm telling you, I looked at. I don't know if I brought this up in a podcast. Like the Boston Celtic team that Danny Ainge put together, that was just so consistent with just mediocre talent. But they were all really, really good role players, and then Isaiah Thomas kind of
Was
boomed.
that like the Evan Turner?
And they made like the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat, like or Eastern Conference semis or something. And their team was like Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Isaiah Thomas, Jonas Jerebko. It was just like this weird assertion of talent, and it's like that is the Utah Jazz. And
Danny
maybe
Ainge is weird, bro.
maybe Laurie Bird is like their Isaiah Thomas. Like maybe he's the guy that's stepping into this. Like now, obviously, I don't think he's an MVP candidate like IT was, but Laurie's kind of nasty. And they have the key piece of Kelly Olynyk that might be able to pop some shoulders out of place to really make this thing.
And Colin Sexton's still good. Jordan Clarkson has proved to be one of the best role players in the NBA. Like, they ain't bad. I said at the beginning, I will keep going back to that. I said their roster ain't bad.
You did.
Well, boys, you got anything else to say? I think this was a great episode.
That's all I got, man.
Fred, get us out of here.
Hey, thank you all so much for tuning in to once again another NBA pod here on the X Factor Sports Nation. Don't be a star. Don't be a superstar. Change the game. Be an X Factor. We love you all. God bless and peace out.